Today we'll be exploring Vaisakhi, the most well-known and celebrated festival in the Sikh calendar. We all know the common narrative, but in this episode we'll go beyond that with the help of J.S. Godawar's Master of the White Hawk and have our questions answered by Dr. Kamleep Singh. Together we'll explore whether 1699 was the correct year. So join us today as we take a journey down the rabbit hole of written sources regarding Vaisakhi. Be sure to check out the other extracts or listen to the full podcast episode to find out more. So, from the little that I've researched...
And that's why Bhai Mani Singh in Shaheed Bilas by Seema Singh, I believe it is, around 1800, he writes that Bhai Mani Singh is set with a Granth to the Akal Takht Sahib. Now, what would that be? That's Granth.
Yeah.
And that's why the one with the Samkh of that date, 1698, which is the exact year it was there, which was the one that was thrown through the window, yeah?
And that's the one that we're referring to, isn't it?
Referred to.
Okay.
That was sent with 5 Singhs and Nishan Sahibs after the Amrit Sanchar. So exactly, you hit the nail on the head. The Khalsa Bible, you can say, if we want to use that term, or the Khalsa guidebook
Is
is
Dasam
Dasam Granth.
Yeah.
The Book of Princes, you can say, like our political rule, the same as what the British informants were telling the the Brahmins were telling the British.
It's like how people kind of, I guess, refer to Machiavelli's work. Like,
That's
it's like the political work.
Yes, that was our work, and our work for learning warfare, Shastra Vidya, for political things, for battle tricks. It was all through Dasam Granth, and people
Worldly issues, basically.
worldly issues, and that's why people need to read it to get worldly sharp. And so the thing is, going back to the different years, this also fits in neatly with Dasam Granth, which you just said here about the extra Baniya, or we can say what is the Apocrypha.
Yeah.
That could have done the Asa Sorat, and so many, Sukhmana, and so many other different Baniya. So obviously you got the 1696 Sarup, which I talked about in our first podcast, yeah? And that one was obviously copied more than the next one.
Yeah.
And so the 1696 Sarup finishes at a certain point, which was the Jope Sahib and the Zafarnama is appended to it, which again fits in the dates of the Amrit Sanchar, the date of the Charitra Upakyan fits in with the Amrit Sanchar. Then you got the 1698 one, where the Jobi Avtar is now completed, yeah? And then that
ties into what you're saying earlier.
exactly.
Being completely
and now that's set to the Sangat of Patna Sahib as well. And it's got the extra Baniya. And then it proves that Bani La Ugardatti is Guru Maharaj's, because it's around the creation of the final Amrit Sanchar of Khalsa, as we formally know it.
Yeah.
Last point, you could say, yeah.
Okay.
Through these various ceremonies that happen with the Chatka,
And
with keeping gears, just keeping weapons, getting to the level of what we can say is Pancha Kakar, 3 Kakar, maybe going to 5. I don't know. I'm postulating. But because the thing is, when 3 are mentioned in Sarp law, it could be 5, yeah?
But this is the other thing that I would like, because obviously there's a lot of people who make a lot of noise about this on the internet, and I'm not about to name any names because it gives these people more fuel that they don't need. But one thing that I find interesting is we, just like you were saying earlier, we look back at history in terms of from like a modern lens. So for argument's sake, you didn't have Tesco back then, or you weren't going to the shop to buy your boxes. You would be wearing a kashera because that is the cultural norm, so to speak. Like, the kara was a shastra, so you'd probably be wearing it for just want of protection. Like, what I'm trying to get at is that we look at the Panch Kakaras in a prescriptive religious manner in the modern age. But actually, it's more like then it would have played a practical means that people would have probably already be wearing or using. So what I mean is, Guru Maharaj saying, be Shastra Tari is just reinforcing something that Guru Har Gobind Sahib has been saying since. So it's not necessarily new in that sense. Just coming back to the date.
In the same way, the Bardic tradition of Shebe Pasha, like the Bardic music of Taddi, Dasam Granth in the Kavata that is in is a continuation of that.
Yeah.
In the heroic.
And it's a military theme or whatever.
Exactly. So it's the institutionalization of that. But I just wanted to allude to something else. When you talk about the Hulla Mahalla, and obviously there's a direct relationship with Shastra Puja there. Ram Avtar is read under Sera Shastra Puja. We talked about Bhai Mani Singh here, and then obviously Hulla Mahalla, Krishna Avtar, and the Baniya. But then look, this is what's really important. why in this period is there a rapid militarization of the Panth? Because the Guru knew from his informants that the Mughals would attack Anandpur Sahib. So you had to get everyone ready.
You had to gear them up.
Because we know only a few years later, Anandpur Sahib is attacked. That's the next thing, and the Battle of Chamkaur Sahib and all the rest of it. So I'm looking through my PhD, and I'm forced to be in historical here. So I'm trying to step historically, try to think. I can't say what the Guru's thinking because I'm nowhere, not even anything under even his feet. I'm not worthy of. But what I'm trying to say on a historical level, why would Guruji do that? Because you have to make a rapid military force to protect Anandpur Sahib, Punjab.
Sieged.
And what did we mention? Even Amritsar. So the Nishans are set, the Dasam Granth is set.
Yeah. To take it away from Anandpur Sahib, keep it safe.
To keep everything safe, yeah? To Patna Sahib, that's sent far and wide, yeah? To keep it all safe. Because this big work, yeah? And so you see historically what we're saying makes sense.
Yes.
And what modern day...
Everything's starting to connect. Yeah.
What the modern day narrative is, it's not organic. It's
constructive.
It's very constructed, literal.
For different purposes, right?
Yeah. It's there to divide. He isn't there to bring this together. I'm here to bring it together.
Yeah. Well, that's why I came, because I knew with your PhD thesis, you'd hopefully be the person to ask the questions. Now, what's interesting about the dating thing is that all of the pre-colonial texts seem to be very much in agreement that it's around 1698. I don't think any of them really disagree with one another. The first point, and again, I've done very little research, so I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who know better, but just off the back of what I've read, it seems to be that Gyani Gyan Singh has a number of statements, and one of them is that 1699 is the year that the Khalsa is created. He seems to be the first one to put that year forward. What's also interesting, though, is he also says a number of other things which don't necessarily hold water. So he declares that...
It's like the creation of the Nirmali.
But he also says that there's only...
Wait a second. Yeah. It's interesting because he says that Nirmali are created about the same time. But look at all the other accounts.
And they go against what he's saying.
And that's 1888 Gyani Gyan Singh, isn't it? And so the thing is, they're not mentioned before 1888 in Ityas. I mean, they have literature, they have Sampradaya, but they don't have a creation story until Gyani Gyan Singh comes along.
But what's also interesting, he says a number of other things. He says there's only 4 main recensions of Dasam Granth, which we know is untrue. Colophons within numerous manuscripts prove it to be wrong. Even the Sodak Committee is able to locate 32 manuscripts. Again, that's a whole different podcast, which we've already done. Gyani Gyan Singh also states that Guru Gobind Singh Ji did not kneel to accept Amrit from the Panch Pyare. Now, personally, I think much of that is a theological issue within himself.
But wait a second, why would he say that if Guru Gobind Singh didn't get Amrit? If that wasn't an idea? You see, why would he say that? Okay, let me rephrase it so I'm more academic. I want to say it to people understand it. He would only say that if there was an idea that the Guru kneeled and took Amrit from Panch Pyare.
Yeah.
Which is the common consensus, right?
Yes.
That the Guru took Amrit from the Panch. And this is the whole issue with the Nirmali, why they criticize Ugatanti Bani, Sarablo Granth, and, Pandit Tara Singh Narotam in, why did you get the name right? It was Gurnirnay Sagar.
Okay.
Siri Gurmat Nirnay Sagar, 1877.
Yep.
So Pandit Tara Singh Narotam, and he says, how can the Khalsa be Satguru Pura? And Maharaj says, Khalsa mera Satguru Pura in Sarablo Granth, yeah? He says, so Sarablo Granth can't be written by Guru Gobind Singh because of that. And he quotes Ugadanti can't be because of this and that. So anything that praises the Khalsa for that level, then Nirmali deny.
But doesn't that go against everything we've just discussed?
Exactly, because is what they're doing there, the same Masant, the Brahmanism.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they got a vested interest in order to break that because it takes away their role and authority. I see. Yeah.
This whole thing
kind of cause and effect in this case. Yeah.
You understand him?
Yeah.
You get it?
And it's also the fact that 1690, I know this is going to sound quite simplistic, but it's also the fact that 1699 is it looks like a better number than 1698 is the reason it's picked. As in, I know it sounds really trivial and stupid, but aesthetically, when you look at it on the page, it is more appeasing. Is there an element of simplicity, rather than kind of dig into it and be like, well, actually, maybe it was 97 or 90. Like, 'cause they all say 98. Like, everyone says.
Let's look at our conversation. We discussed 96.
Yeah.
You went far back as 95
Yeah.
in one account. You went 96. 98 came a number of times.
Yeah.
99 didn't come once.
No, we haven't even discussed it.
Right. And so I don't know where that's from.
Touche. Fair.
And I've given you my reasons of why I think it's there. Okay. And maybe in Gyani Gyans's defense, I mean, I'm being academic here,
Yeah.
which is maybe he's writing something that was forgotten.
Yes. And maybe we need to check the sources and dig into that. Yeah. Who knows? And also, just as we were discussing earlier, there's numerous layers to it, like sending out Hukumname, preparing people, removing the masans, the Khalsa ceremonies, etc., so on and so forth.
And remember the preamble to Vasaki's Walla Mahalla,
Yes.
which is complete military, right?
Yeah.
And people forget that Vasaki itself as a ceremony is sitting on the marching ceremony, Walla Mahalla. Everyone misses that one, don't they?
I think they never see it as a connection. They never see the two together. It's separate events.
See it, and you have to look at it in that way. And then they forget that it's after this period that Anand Prasad
It's sieged.
is sieged and everything else.
And John God happens.
And it's all connected. It's all connected. And it just shows you how much of a great general and emperor Guru Gobind Singh was, because he preempted their attack and he preempted their plans. And he was already preparing the Sangha for that, else we wouldn't have made it through. I wouldn't be sitting here in Bana and you wouldn't be
A scene.
a siege. And I wouldn't be Nanzing and you wouldn't have taken Amrit from Buddha.
Nope.
Right?
No.
Because it's because of what Guruji foresaw there, that we are here. And so we got to look at it, that whatever was happening, call it ceremonies, call it whatever you want, he was militarizing Sangha.
Yes, definitely.
Defend themselves against an imminent attack. And in the same order of Miri Piri, this was a spiritual event rather than just a secular event.
Yes,
It had mystical connotations for Sikhs in their cosmological worldview. It wasn't just some meaningless thing that they're being attacked colonially and they need to yield their power. Their power was God-given and they were going to protect their sovereignty.